There is a very thin line between dying and death, and medicine treats that line with almost cruel precision. Dying is the process. Circulation failing, breathing becoming ineffective, the brain losing the oxygen and glucose it demands like a spoiled monarch. Death, clinically, is when those vital functions have ceased and do not return. In the first moments, what matters is brutally simple. No effective heartbeat, no effective breathing, no meaningful response. When the heart stops pumping blood, pressure collapses. The skin can turn pale very quickly. That early ghosting is pallor mortis. Muscles, no longer governed in the usual way, relax. The jaw may slacken, eyelids may sit partly open, and yes, the bladder or bowels may empty because the sphincter muscles lose tone. Not dramatic in the cinematic sense, just biology tidying the room on its way out. At the same time, the body begins cooling. Not instantly, bodies are stubborn things, but the internal furnace has gone quiet. Heat is no longer being generated through metabolism in the same living way, so temperature starts drifting toward the environment. A warm room, a cold tiled floor, heavy clothing, body size, recent fever, all of it matters. Dead is not a stopwatch. It's more like a trail bike engine after you kill the ignition. It doesn't become cold on the spot. Terrible analogy, but you get me. Now, one of the most unsettling things for witnesses is the presence of movement after collapse. Agonal gasps are the classic example. These are abnormal, reflexive breathing efforts that can happen when the brainstem is in extremis. They may sound like snoring, gulping, or harsh, desperate sucking at the air. To a frightened relative, it can look like a person is fighting back toward life. Usually, it does not mean recovery. It means the system is failing in fragments. You can also see brief jerks, small limb movements, or a shudder through the torso. Those motions may come from residual nerve and muscle activity, spinal reflexes, or simple release of tension as muscles relax. It feels eerie because we are built to read movement as intention. But after death, movement is not always agency. Sometimes it is just the machinery stuttering as the lights go out. And that is the first hard lesson. The end of life is often not a neat switch flipped in silence. It can be messy, awkward, and deeply confronting. Not because something supernatural has arrived, but because the body is an orchestra losing its conductor, one section at a time. Once circulation has ceased, the body begins leaving marks like a very disciplined witness. The first major one is livor mortis, post-mortem lividity. Blood is no longer being pushed through vessels, so gravity takes over, and it settles into the lowest parts of the body. Early on, this can appear as patchy, pinkish-purple discoloration, then deepen over hours. Press on it in the beginning, and it may blanch. Later, it can become fixed, as blood leaks from vessels into tissues. Position matters enormously. A body left on its back will show different pooling than one found face down. So will pressure from clothing, belts, or a hard surface. Then comes rigor mortis, the stiffening of muscles after death. This happens because muscles need ATP, cellular energy, to release their contracted state. Once energy production stops, the fibers lock. It usually begins within hours, often first in smaller muscles like the jaw, then progresses through the body. It does not arrive like a curtain drop, and it does not leave on a schedule fit for railway timetables. Temperature, exertion before death, body condition, illness, all of it can speed it up or slow it down. Heat tends to hurry things along. Cold tends to delay it. Eventually, as decomposition advances, rigor fades. Algor mortis is the cooling I mentioned earlier. People love turning it into arithmetic, but forensic work is rarely that polite. Cooling is influenced by ambient temperature, airflow, humidity, body size, clothing, immersion in water, contact with surfaces, even whether a person had a fever. So yes, the body cools after death, but no responsible expert treats one temperature reading like a magic receipt stamped with the exact time. Early decomposition begins quietly. Autolysis comes first. Cells start digesting themselves as their internal compartments fail. Then bacteria, especially those already living in the gut, continue their work unchecked, and putrefaction gathers pace. Gases build up. The abdomen may bloat. Veins can show a branching greenish-purple pattern under the skin called marbling. The skin may loosen and blister. Fluids can collect and, under pressure from gas, purge from the mouth or nose, which, if you've only seen tidy television corpses, is one hell of a correction. And yes, bodies can seem to move after death. Small twitches may come from residual activity in muscles or nerves. Apparent shifting can happen as rigor develops, then later breaks, or as gases expand the abdomen and chest. There is also cadaveric spasm, a much rarer phenomenon described as an immediate stiffening affecting certain muscle groups at the moment of death. It's controversial in some contexts and not something to wave around carelessly. The key point is this: post-mortem motion exists, but it is not a sign of life returning. It is chemistry, physics, and timing playing nasty little tricks on the eye. The brain, of course, is the part people most want to romanticize. Fair enough. It is the crown jewel and the most oxygen-hungry tenant in the building. After cardiac arrest, blood flow stops and the brain begins to fail within seconds. Loss of consciousness is typically rapid. Electrical activity does not always vanish in one clean stroke, though. Research has shown that brief residual patterns can persist for a short time after the heart stops. In some studies, there have been transient bursts or organized activity. Interesting, yes. Proof of a hidden cinematic finale? No. The evidence does not support long, intact brain function once circulation is gone. One of the most important phenomena described in modern neuroscience is terminal spreading depolarization. Bit of a mouthful. Even a kangaroo could trip over it. Here's the plain version. Neurons maintain electrical gradients across their membranes using energy. When oxygen and fuel disappear, that energy system collapses. A wave of near-simultaneous depolarization sweeps through brain tissue. Cells lose the ability to hold their electrical charge properly. Communication fails. If circulation is not restored, this wave marks the transition toward irreversible injury. Before that final collapse, there may be a brief interval where some cells are stressed but not yet beyond rescue. That matters in emergency medicine because resuscitation is a race against that biological deadline. But once the cascade progresses and energy failure is sustained, the process becomes catastrophic. Not dramatic in the poetic sense, more like a city grid losing power, then backup, then the map itself. Now we arrive at the delicate question: awareness near death. Science can say a few things, and only a few. People who survive cardiac arrest sometimes report vivid experiences. Perceptions, memories, a sense of detachment, light, voices, calm, terror, all of it. These reports are real as reports. The experiences happen to the people describing them. What remains uncertain is exactly when and how they arise in relation to the collapse and recovery of brain function. Some may reflect activity during the crisis, some during early recovery, some a stitched-together memory constructed around fragmented consciousness. We do not know enough to be grand about it. So the honest answer, the only respectable answer, is this. There may be brief residual brain activity after cardiac arrest, but its scope is limited. Terminal spreading depolarization is the brain's final wave of failure when energy runs out, and claims about sustained awareness after death outrun the evidence. Mystery survives, but not because science is asleep on the job. It survives because the border is narrow, the data are hard to catch, and the brain does not surrender its secrets cheaply. That's where we'll leave it today, right on the threshold, neat as a razor. Next time, we'll pry open another corner of the forensic world. Until then, keep your eyes sharp and your conclusions sharper.